welcome back to another one of our videos. This is part 2 on breastfed versus bottle fed, pros and cons. So if you haven't watched our first video, pause this one right now, go back and watch our first one, and then come back and join us.
Absolutely.
Before we dive in, I'm Taylor.
I'm Tracy.
And we are
TNT.
Okay, so normally we would go over the teas that we are drinking, but if you have already watched part 1, you already know what tea we're drinking. So there you go. So we are just gonna jump right in here and kind of pick up right where we left off. We're gonna start off with comfort. So go ahead.
Comfort, I put that down. Breastfeeding can be really uncomfortable. I mean, let's just be honest.
Yes.
It's very difficult sometimes to learn how to latch on for baby. You know, when you're first doing that, it can be painful because it's amazing how hard they can suck.
So true.
So
true.
I remember just the first time latched on, you're like, oh, that's what that feels like, you know, like it can be pretty startling. So it can be uncomfortable, and sometimes you can be really tender for a while, and then there's the leaking problem that can be really embarrassing. Yeah, and we talked about how breastfeeding is less expensive, but if you're one of those ladies that leaks a lot, you're gonna have those pads in your bra all the time, the washable ones. Those are so much better. So
yeah, get like the thick ones. We're gonna get a little TMI here. But this is real talk, okay? So I'm just gonna be real with you guys, okay? It doesn't really matter what size you are here. I would definitely recommend just getting like the big pads, because there's like ones that are like tiny, like this, and like I said, doesn't matter what size you are gonna go through that like that.
Time.
So get like the big fluffy ones. That was the ones that like definitely worked best for me.
Right, and they're gonna last longer. You're not have to be changing them out all the time.
Yeah.
As far as comfort goes, you would have to give that one to bottle feeding, because it is a lot more comfortable, and you're not gonna have those things along the way that cause the embarrassment.
Yeah, well, and just like the chapped areas there, you know, it can be uncomfortable. But
and if you get clogged, I actually had that experience, and called the doctor and like, what do we do about this? You keep nursing.
You keep nursing.
Because that's the only thing that's going to unclog that, they told me. And oh, talk about painful. Yeah, that one brought tears to my eyes.
That's uncomfortable.
Don't let that turn you off from breastfeeding.
Oh, that's what I wanted to say too. Yeah, like don't let that deter you, because I will say the discomfort for me with my first one, it only lasted maybe the first couple of weeks, and your body adjusts to it, and it kind of calluses up, if you will, and stuff, and then after that, like, you don't even feel it, you don't even notice it. So I would say if you can get pushed through the first couple of weeks, kind of that discomfort, and there are some things that you can do to kind of prepare your body for that, like while you're pregnant, which I didn't do because I found that to be super uncomfortable, because it is. But if you want to kind of prepare yourself for nursing, if that's something that you're planning on doing, you can like take a towel and kind of like rub that area a little bit, and it kind of starts building up that callus. I don't want to say like callus, but it kind of is, I guess. Like it kind of builds up that toughness a little bit. And so so throughout your pregnancy, if you want to do that in preparation, that kind of helps, that buffer when you first start nursing.
Yeah, so for something that's very natural, I'd say the first couple weeks maybe don't feel very natural, but once you get past that, it does become kind of second nature.
It does.
After that.
Well, and I want to add to that too, because we've kind of been making a pros and cons list through this subject. I personally found nursing to be very convenient as well, because you didn't have to always make bottles. You didn't. It's like, oh, my baby's hungry, I need to go make a bottle. Middle of the night, I will say, is definitely 100% the most convenient thing ever, because that's one of the biggest reasons why I wanted to nurse as well, is because then I wasn't having to get up and make bottles in the middle of the night. I could just grab my baby, I would just lay there and nurse for a while, and I was still able to rest as well, so I didn't like fully wake up. I was just kind of resting and then able to lay them back down and just go right back to sleep. It was just like such a smooth transition.
Yes.
And it helped with that lack of sleep, because with my second one, she was up like every 2 to 3 hours, and it was not like that with my first one. He was just
he was a much
oh
better
my
sleeper.
goodness, he was just a gem with that. Like I was so spoiled with my first one. He literally only woke up one time throughout the night, and that was it. Like it's a dream first baby. My second one was the complete opposite, and I was definitely more sleep deprived on that one.
Yes.
But anyway, I just wanted to add that it definitely helps with like that smooth transition there if you're nursing at night.
Right. Yeah. So as far as convenience goes, I think, breastfeeding can be, and especially if you have a heavy sleeping dad, you can't get him awake to help in the middle of the night. Some
literally,
some women have that.
I'm like, babe, wake up! I'm like, it's so hard to wake him up, like literally.
Not just in the middle of the night. It can get old, just washing all those bottles and packing the bottles and making sure you always have them with you or have a clean one, and making the bottles sometimes. So it definitely can be more convenient to breastfeed. So,
and on the flip side of that though, the only time that I found that to be inconvenient is when I was out in public. That was a little bit challenging, like they have those cover-ups.
Go back to number one, because we did talk about that too, breastfeeding in public.
We did mention that a little bit, so there's, as we mentioned in the first video, kind of that judgment, or sometimes you might get like some little stares and things like that. I thankfully did not run into that too much. I didn't get any comments from people, and I think it's also because of where I'm living. People are like really big on nursing, but at the same time, it's not like that in every place that you live, and so you might get those like judgmental stares, as we talked about previously. But no, if you are planning on nursing, get yourself one of those covers that it's like a tent, and that was a game changer for me when I discovered those. I mean, they're just way more convenient. And another thing too, another tip that I found kind of later on, but I kind of wish that I would have had like right at the beginning, was they have like these arm pillows for nursing, and it's like a travel size boppy pillow sort of, because when you're at home you have those boppies, and it's just like so easy and so nice to have those when you're nursing. But in public, you're like struggling, you're trying to sit. I hurt my back so badly because I was nursing in public, and I like tweaked it. That's a story for another time, but I could not walk for like a couple of days. Like it like really jacked up my back. So get yourself one of those little arm pillows. You just like slide it on, it supports their head.
So that's great.
So
one of the things I think that a lot of breastfeeding moms worry about is my baby getting enough food.
Yes.
And I think that can be one of the hard things about nursing. And then with a bottle, you just measure it out. You know how much baby's getting every time. It's a lot more consistent and everything. I think with breastfeeding though, if you are producing milk normally, if you're not one of those moms maybe who can't keep up or doesn't really have enough supply and things like that, I think you just have to trust the process, because baby is getting plenty of milk when you're nursing. It's just that you can't verify that. It's really hard to verify. And so I think sometimes that can worry a mom.
I definitely went through that a little bit, because I was like, is she getting enough? Like I don't, like I have no idea how much I'm producing. And I wanted to say there's a couple things you can do with that. Number one, as long as your baby is happy and satisfied, they will let you know if they're getting enough milk or not. And I mean, it's very obvious. Like, I mean, clearly if they're unhappy after nursing, then they're probably not getting enough milk, and you might have to start supplementing. Number two, you can always pump and see how much that you get in a bottle, and then just give them that bottle and then just see how much that they're drinking, and that kind of gives you an idea of how much you're producing and how much that they're drinking.
Right. You can even pump after you nurse and just see how much is left. So if there's still milk coming out and they have stopped nursing, they're satisfied as well.
So yeah, I would definitely say though, I would give that a pro to bottle fed though, because I did like to have that visual of seeing how much they're drinking, how many ounces, because it's just, I don't know, I appreciated having that knowledge of how much they were getting. Okay, so moving right along, we've covered a lot so far. We just have a couple more points here for you guys.
Breast milk is easier on baby's tummy, And we did talk about goat's milk before, which can be a great option because finding a formula can be really difficult. Something that agrees with baby when you're not using, breast milk, it can be difficult.
I would say, I'm sorry, not to interrupt, I apologize, but I wanted to say do your research on formula because I'm not against it. I don't want this to sound like I'm, bashing formulas or anything like that, but there have been some recent things that have been coming up lately. There's been a recall, which I mentioned in the first video. But I'm just saying, do your research and make sure that you're just knowledgeable about these things because I think that's important.
Yeah, and picking the right one.
Yeah.
I didn't actually get to pick the formula for my son. A quick story, I got an inner ear infection. I was not able to nurse any longer. I had completely lost my sense of balance, so couldn't even take care of my own baby at that time. So somebody actually had to come pick him up, and she picked a formula, and she was an older woman who hadn't looked at formulas in forever, and she literally just grabbed one. And so he ended up on a soy formula, and we kept him on it because we didn't want to change once he had adjusted to it after like a week. But there was like no research, it was just literally like grab. And so maybe not the choice that I would have made. So yeah, definitely do your research. In the same token, with breast milk being better for baby, you have to watch what you're eating.
Yes.
So that can be sometimes a downside. If your favorite food is something that doesn't agree with baby,
that might be tricky.
You have to give that up for a while, or you might have to come up with other options. So
well, and saying that, like there's kind of pros and cons to both of them, I feel like, because one, you have to watch what you're eating if you're nursing, or two, you have to really do your research to find the formula. So I feel like that's kind of balanced out a little bit, right? And one of my friends actually had to go through different tests to figure out if her baby was allergic to different things, and then she had to stay off of all of those foods, which can, is kind of a downside to nursing, because then if your baby's allergic to something that you're not, like gluten as an example, she had to be gluten-free for a period of time until she stopped nursing, which can be a little bit of a challenge.
Right. And this is why we've just kind of gone through these pros and cons, because some people would think, oh, that's not really that big a sacrifice. I don't care if I have to give up gluten for my baby. And others might just feel like, oh no, I need my bread, and that's okay.
Yeah, totally.
Whichever direction you go in. So I think we're hopefully to give you guys some things to think about here, to weigh out, to talk about.
Yeah.
And we'd love to hear more comments, because I'm sure we did not cover everything you can think of here. So put your own experiences and your own thoughts and your own things that you considered when you were trying to decide one way or the other. Put those in the comments and share those with us.
Yeah,
for sure.
Absolutely. And again, I know we say this in every video, but we love the conversation. So if you're new to our channel, if this is one of the first videos that you have watched, like, I just want to say this again, like, that we are trying to build a community here for parents as like a safe haven, like no judgment. We are here to talk. We are here to work things out and, give advice, give tips and all those things. So yeah, please leave comments. We really hope you guys enjoyed this video. We hope you got something out of it. If you did, like and subscribe. Check us out on Instagram and Facebook as well. And
yeah, can't wait to hear from you, and we will see you again in 2 weeks.
All right. Cheers.
Cheers. Clink, clink. I love it.